Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. We're doing a new segment here, and I'm excited to welcome Tom Wilde, CEO of Indico, who has been gracious to join us for Global Leaders Local Coffee. So Tom, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Good to be here.
Well, so first, you maybe tell tell the audience a little bit about Indico and what makes you guys so special, and where you are along your journey.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Indico, in some ways, was really born in my backyard. So I joined about 3 years ago as the CEO, but the company's founding was at the Olin College of Engineering over in Needham, Massachusetts, which is sort of right over the hill from where I'm sitting right now. So it's funny, a small world sort of story. But I met the founders who had developed a really incredible core technology using artificial intelligence, in this case, deep learning, that was able to understand documents and images. So you could basically train it how to understand how to read a document, if you want to think about it that way, with this approach. And so we then packaged that into an enterprise solution to help companies like insurance companies and banks who ingest millions of documents every year understand those documents in an automated fashion.
Very cool, very cool. And how big's the team?
So we're about 24 right now.
Great. That's awesome. And probably maybe one of the most important questions, you a coffee person? Are you a coffee drinker?
I am indeed, although I have to say, like, I have a hard stop at around 11 a.m. because if I drink coffee past that, then I get the shakes, but definitely a big coffee fan in the morning. Yeah,
same. I'm an addicted Phil's coffee guy. I got addicted on the West Coast, and I think quarantine and global pandemic has made me order more and more coffee and drink more and more coffee. So, but I do have a cutoff at a certain point throughout the day as well.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, hey, I would love to, maybe share a bit with the audience as to, it sounds like you guys are in that kind of seed to Series A stage. Would love you to share a little bit about, what's top of mind for you at that point of the startup journey right now.
Sure, and I'll give my little coffee plug here. So I've got, you can see that with the pandemic. That's my Trader Joe's Joe's fix. So I've developed a real taste for that. So yeah, that's been good. And so this is I've done this several times now, and I love this stage of a company. It's incredibly challenging, but an awful lot of fun to try to take something unique and disruptive and turn it into an actual business. That sort of the old crossing the chasm sort of challenge. So when I joined Indico, we had that technology advantage, and they're relatively rare, right? A real technology advantage is relatively rare. And the question is, how do you both defend it and package it in a way that turns into revenue, right? And so we've spent the last couple of years really working on our product and go-to-market strategy. In my experience, over and over again, the go-to-market is ultimately where the whole game is won or lost. It's not really lost on product or technology. It's all won or lost on, are you able to figure out that unlock of go-to-market, whatever that formula is, to drive growth?
Yeah, no, it's so true. I think oftentimes in the early startup journey, it's so easy to get distracted. I don't know if your journey was a bit like ours. I'm a non-founder CEO, and was part of that kind of early stage team finding product market fit. But it's always so easy for startups to look and see other companies in and around their space, wonder if the grass is greener, get distracted, and not find kind of their core message. And it's so critical during that period of time to try and stay focused, right? And if you need to pivot and adjust, but at the same time, don't try and do 10 different things.
Yeah, and I think not listening too closely to the customer noise. Especially your bigger competitors will say a lot of things that are just vaporware, and that's their prerogative as the market leader, right? Is to try to freeze the market with that. You've got to really put your blinders on and listen to the customer more than the competitors. And you also need to, in my experience, you've got to figure out what your superpower is, right? You've got to identify that one superpower that you're really gonna stay true to and not take your eye off, because the mistake I made this in the past as well, but it's very easy to get flanked if you take your eye off on that superpower and try to go after a couple other things, and before you know it, someone else has come into the market and outdone you. So, boy, that's really, really critical at the early stage, and I think it is, for the life of the company, but especially in the early goings.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. Well, those that know me and know Flywire, we're very focused on kind of looking internal and trying to, self-reflect a lot. I would love to ask leaders, when you look back on kind of childhood, your life, is this what you thought you would do? Do you see trends from your childhood that say, hey, this is why I'm leading a company. This is why I'm a tech leader today. Can you share any interesting insights when you look back?
Yeah, I think so. My personal interests is sort of construction and building and woodworking. I like to do that sort of thing. And I find it a bit cathartic as well, because especially now we spend so much screen time, by the end of the day, I just want to pick up a hammer. I think that is cathartic in its own way. I think though that what my wife would say is that I like to start things. Sometimes, the finishing is where she gets frustrated with me. And I think it relates to startups, right? You have to kind of be comfortable beginning a project without necessarily knowing the full extent of the project, and be comfortable to kind of figure it out along the way, but have an overall kind of vision of what you're going to do. And so I think those things are a little bit parallel. In retrospect, I think they're sort of parallel to why I like doing this, as a career.
Yeah. Things change. You have to adapt. There's a lack of certainty in what the outcome is. I can definitely see that. And so you mentioned woodworking. Anything else, I guess, from a personal passion, things outside of work? Where do you find fulfillment outside of work? You mentioned a family.
Yeah, so I've got 4 kids with my wife here in Wellesley. So they're a bit older now. So a little bit of the pressure's off from the toddler years for sure. But they're a lot of fun, and I think with sort of the last few months, we're all under one roof together, and it's been remarkably good, to be honest. I really enjoy spending time with them, especially the older ones who are 24 and 22, and normally they'd be as far away from us as possible. But it's been kind of a rare occasion to spend a bunch of time together, so that's been fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it definitely a silver lining. I get 4 as well. I get 4 boys, ages 8 through 15. So, the learning from home and the working from home was an interesting challenge. But now at least they can go outside, they can enjoy summer, they can run a bit. But it's a blessing to have some family time. Bit of a silver lining in all the global pandemic chaos, for sure.
Yeah, definitely a test in group dynamics. So in addition to running a company, if you're running a household of 6 people, or running a household of 6 people, there's definitely some group dynamics to figure out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know the audience and a lot of the early stage CEOs and entrepreneurs that I talk to, they kind of look for, how do you kind of cross that chasm? How do you make it? We talked about focus. Tell me a bit about when you look at growing this business, what else is kind of top of mind? Is it the culture of the team that you're building? Is it that investor group that you're going to? Do you have 2 or 3 building blocks that you think are critical to kind of getting across that chasm?
Yeah, I think it's vital you have sort of a mission to Mars that everybody has their head around and is excited about, right? That has to sustain you for the first few years, because the commercial success generally is going to be lumpy. You might get lucky and hit a vein early on, but generally, it's going to be lumpy. There's going to be lots of setbacks, lots of frustrations, lots of dead ends. And so the fact that, you're on that spaceship together with that overall mission, I found to be absolutely vital to hang on to, especially high performers, right? Because they have lots of alternatives in the market. But that's what keeps them together more than anything else is that mission. And I think it extends to the investors as well. The good investors will know that there are setbacks and stumbles, and stay calm and give good advice if you have really painted that picture for them and that mission that you're on. So I think that those have been learnings. And to be honest, even customers, they want to see that mission you're on, because they either are going to buy into it or they're not. So it's hard to do, and it's vital.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it is truly a journey, right? And I think when if you think of all the ups and downs that exist on those journeys, those are all the stakeholders that are along with you with it, right? And do they understand the journey? I think my experience has been you read the headlines from tech, you read some of the publications, and you start to wonder, hey, is everything just so rosy? Is every startup successful? And it's actually the opposite, right? Such a huge number of them fail, and I think you don't oftentimes hear about those kind of struggles, or you don't hear about those negative sides of the journey as much as you really need to when you're in it and you're feeling it every day. There's ups and downs. It's truly a roller coaster.
Yeah, that's sort of the competitive blinder thing, and I'll extend it to even just adjacent startups. Everybody is grinding it out. Everybody is struggling. You can't. It's so easy to feel like, wow, we're just not doing this right, because look at all these other companies. They're just crushing it. And the reality is, everybody is grinding this out. It's such a difficult thing to build a company from. So you have to kind of stay sort of in the pocket and stay focused on what you're trying to execute, and try to keep the noise away, because no one's got it totally figured out, despite their public-facing statements, either very large competitors, adjacent companies, et cetera.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So you mentioned team and alignment of team. How do you any tips or tricks as to how you look for new talent, right? When you look to bring someone into your team, what are you looking for? How much are you looking for? Obviously, expertise. There's different views of whether you say culture fit or culture add, when you're looking for new teammates. Any words of wisdom as people are building kind of early stage teams?
I think we do this because we can today. It gets harder when you get bigger. We're very rigorous about, our candidates will go through, and talk to usually on average 6 people at Indico before they get an offer. And we really want to have a shared understanding of both their technical abilities and their fit, whatever their technically, whether it's marketing or software or sales, the skill they bring to the table, but also, can we work with this person? Are we going to enjoy working with this person? Are they interacting in a way that we can see this over the long term? And so I think that's what we try to do. It's not perfect. I think that the other thing to be okay with, and what I try to coach the team on, is you will get it wrong sometimes. It's important to reach a conclusion quicker, and to be sort of honest and fair to the candidate, and just say, this didn't work, and we're going to make sure there's a fair transition. So I think it's okay to understand and embrace that you will get it wrong some percentage of the time, and that's not a disaster, right? It does happen despite best intentions on both sides.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. Well, obviously we're living in a pretty unusual time, right? None of us, I think, started 2020 fully realizing what a global pandemic could look like, or what it could do to running a business or dealing with even one's personal life. What has it taught? I guess being in the situation, what has it taught you? What are things you've learned from it? How have you guys navigated this crisis? I know a lot of people are wondering, how long is it going to last? What have you guys learned navigating it at Indico?
Yeah, I think that it speaks to the shared mission thing. This transition was very disruptive, and I think could have caused issues if there wasn't a real shared understanding of what we were trying to do here. I think, like a lot of software companies, we're ridiculously lucky, right? We actually can transition to work from home with, if anything, not negatives, but positives. I think, like most software companies, we had our best quarter ever from a roadmap perspective, just insane productivity out of the engineering team. And so, I think that we're lucky as an industry in that manner, because many industries, just literally can't do what we can do in the software business. I think you learn from customers, how if your product is really solving a problem or not, because, in Q2, customers were going down the list, and if you weren't really connected to them and really solving a problem, you got dumped overboard. And so I was pleased with our performance in Q2. We had 100% customer renewals in Q2, and that was a real litmus test, a real battle test for how well we were solving the problem that we were purchased to solve.
Completely, makes sense. Makes complete sense. And last question for me: when you look at COVID, what is something in the old world that you miss the most, right? In the world that we've left behind, and we don't know the new normal yet. But when you look back, and if there's one thing you could go and do that you can't really do in this environment, what is it?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, by personality, I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert, so it seems kind of strange, but I really miss the interaction, the more casual interactions with my team in the office. I miss going to see customers. I find it insanely valuable, to be with them in the same room. I really do miss those interactions. I personally found that very difficult. And I think that, from a stamina perspective, the 8 hours of screen time to communicate your message and to be convincing with folks, it's a different skill and hard to do on a sustained basis. So that's been, I think that's been some learning too. There's a different type of stamina doing the job this way.
Yeah, for sure. It's a different muscle. It's definitely a different muscle that we're having to flex in this environment. And as much as I wish we could have done this coffee in person, I appreciate you carving out time and spending time and talking about building the company with me.
Sorry, I lost you there, Mike, just for a second. You broke up at the end.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I wanted to just thank you for joining, and hopefully we'll get a chance to spend some time together in person and share a real coffee at some point.
You got it. I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Mike.